Good morning and welcome to our Weber County Commission meeting on this, the 30th day of November, 2021. It's 10 o'clock. We have a full quorum and I'm glad that you've chosen to be here. Those of you who are attending in person and those of you who are online via Zoom, YouTube, or any other way, whether it's currently or in the future. Glad to have you here. Our Pledge of Allegiance this morning will be led by Miss Sarah Swan. We'll have her come and do that, and then Commissioner Frohr will offer the invocation, and then I'll give the thought of the day. Ms. Swan, thank you.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Our Father in heaven, as we come together as citizens of this great country and Weber County, we give thanks for all the opportunities and freedoms that we enjoy because of our Constitution and government forms that we have in this great country. We give thanks, Father, for the joyous time of year that we spend with our families and friends, and for those memories that we create from those lovely family gatherings from now to the end of the year. We ask for your blessings, Father, to ensure that the decisions we make today are made with your guidance and inspiration, and will be made in the best interest of the citizens of this county. Please bless those in this community that have issues with health, and may they soon return to full health and enjoy the joyous time of year that we have. We do, Father, ask for a special blessing for the families of Mark DeCaria and Ryan Arbon as they go through some health issues, and we ask that they return to full health and in good health as soon as possible. Finally, Father, we ask for your guidance today so that we as citizens and government officials can all work together in the best interest of our fellow citizens and make decisions that are beneficial to us all. We say this prayer, Father, in the name of thy Son, Jesus Christ. Amen. Thank you.
Amen. Thank you, guys. Great. Thank you. Thank you, Sarah, for stepping in, and Commissioner Frohr for your prayer this morning. Commissioners, I wanted to just a little brief thought. I appreciate you mentioned something in your prayer, and I'll bring it back full circle here within my thought. You know, we're right here on a really busy intersection at 24th and Washington. They've installed some new crossing buttons. You can push those buttons and it illuminates a green man that appears to be walking, or if it's too late to walk, there's a red man that flashes that indicates, well, you probably shouldn't walk. Pretty simple. You know, sometimes people, when they're crossing that intersection, they can get out there and a big truck might be coming down the road. And if the guy that's crossing the intersection has a green light, or the green dude up there is on the crosswalk, he's in the right. But if that big truck coming down the road who has a red light continues to come down the road, the person at the crosswalk has a decision to make. They can proceed into the crosswalk, and they're still in the right, but if they keep moving forward, they could be right, but they could be dead right. You know, around the holiday seasons, and not just the holiday seasons, but all the seasons, you know, we had a lot of family gathered for Thanksgiving gratefully, and I had time to reflect on some of the relationships of decades ago, and some people, you know, they proceeded into some of those intersections of life, and they were in the right. But in some cases, they're dead right. Just depends on how much you value your family or how much you value interpersonal relationships. And I'd encourage you to, when you step out into the pathway of life, and even though you've got a green dude flashing, to just look both ways and make sure that you're not dead right. Sometimes there's good time to yield, and it's not that big a deal. You'll eventually get across the street. So those are my thoughts for the day. I hope that made sense.
That made sense. That was great.
Okay, Commissioners, we'll proceed with our consent items today. I'll read those for the record. Item number 1 is a request for approval of warrants 4732 and 4756. Excuse me, I said and. 4732 through and including 4756 and 463, 980 through and including 46071. And 131 in the amount of $151,393.96. Item 2 is a request for approval of purchase orders in the amount of $12,717.30. Item 3 is a request for approval to ratify new beer licenses. Item 4, a request for approval of a donation of Prop 1 funds in the amount of $42,901.49 to Trails Foundation of Northern Utah for asphalt surface repairs for construction of a new section of the Weber River Parkway. Item 5 is a request for approval of the 2-900 COVID-19 vaccination policy. Mr. Ricky Hatch, would you give us a little rundown, please?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. We issued 4 purchase orders this week for $13,000. You can tell it's the end of the year and purchasing is slowing down. Just under half that amount, or $6,000, is for the conference center for temporary labor for their events. We issued 115 warrants this week for $153,000. 23% of that amount, or $35,000, is for the library to purchase books and materials as well as conduct some building maintenance. 14%, or $21,000, is for employee life and disability insurance. 9%, or $13,000, is for the transfer station to purchase fuel as well as equipment repairs. 8%, or $12,000, was for dispatch to purchase supplies, services, and some training and travel. We had 2 items in the amount of $11,000, or 7% of the total. One was for the jail for building improvements, and the other was for the conference center, mostly for ticketing service charges, as well as some talent expense.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Hatch. Commissioners Jenkins, Froers, any question on item E like echo, any of the consent items?
Not for me.
Great. I'll entertain a motion for approval.
Move to approve the consent items, E1 through 5.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. I'll place that motion for vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you. Our first action item today, item F on our agenda, is a request for approval of a first reading of an ordinance of the County of Commissioners, Weber County, amending certain provisions to the purchasing code. A lot of preparation here, and our purchasing agent, Mr. Jason Horn, will make that presentation to us now. Mr. Horn?
Commissioners, thank you. Appreciate the time. We had reviewed at least 20 of the main points of what's been updated here recently with the purchasing ordinance in an open work session not too long ago. So thank you for giving me this opportunity for this first reading. Also, I would like to recognize Brandon Quinney and Brian Barron from our attorney's office. I don't think Brian's here, but we've spent the better part of about 1.5 years going through these requests for updates and things like that, and I think we've got something that's pretty good. So I'll start with, and I'll actually finish with this, and that is that as we went through this process, and like everything that we do, it's always in the best interest of the county and in the taxpayers. We want to make sure that we're using those dollars and those funds very responsibly, and that that's something that we're thinking about all the time. It's in the best interest of the county, or county employees of Weber County, because this is how they do their jobs within the individual departments. And then it's also to ensure that there's fairness to those that want to do business with and for the county. Several highlights that I thought were appropriate for this meeting is that we've reorganized the provisions into more intuitive sections. And this is something that, as far as I can tell, hasn't been done for at least 10 years. I think the last major update was 2011. To give an example, there are similar sections that are now grouped together in the same chapter. The old code had 10 chapters, and each chapter had between 2 and 13 sections. The new code has fewer chapters, 7 to be exact, and the reduction of sections are within those chapters. It's a much cleaner and easier purchasing ordinance for anyone that's searching to find what they're after in less time and perhaps less confusion. Another example of reorganized provisions is we've added the definition of the word procurement versus purchase. In the old ordinance, they were used interchangeably, which I think to most people they can be used interchangeably, but in order to kind of make it so that the entire document agreed, we've changed it to procurement, and you'll see that word throughout. It's consistent, and it's to prevent confusion. We've also modernized it. We've taken the code as it was relevant that 10 plus years ago or longer, and we're making it relevant today. So an example of that would be we've adjusted the procurement thresholds to match inflation, as well as increased flexibility. This is in emergency procurements as well as exceptional procurements, which we've seen, that's in light of probably the last 18 months or so, as we've all kind of worked through the pandemic. And then one more, the requirements of the purchasing agent, this was brought up in that work session, as it pertains to shall do, remain the same, but the new code fosters flexibility as far as what the purchasing agent may do, because each procurement is unique. And again, I'm going to circle back to, it's always about the best interest of the county and the taxpayers, making sure that the people that are working for the county can do it efficiently and correctly, and that we're ensuring fairness for all that want to do business with and for the county. Are there any questions I can answer?
Thank you, Commissioners. I'll hear that, or Mr. Horn, I'll hear that. And Commissioner Jenkins, Commissioner Frohr, any questions for Mr. Horn?
Not for me.
Not for me.
You know, for the public, we appreciate the information given to us in work sessions in the past. To Mr. Quinney, Mr. Barron, Mr. Hatch, I know you two have had a little bit of involvement in this as well. You're taking information we've learned over the last few years and updating the policy so that we're more efficient, which saves taxpayers dollars. And that's really, the efficiency is good. It also allows that another level of transparency, which we like, so we appreciate that. Because this is a first reading, Council Crockett, is there anything we need to do today to take action or anything else?
Just a motion approving the first reading.
Very good. I'll entertain that motion now.
I'll make that motion.
Ready to have a motion for Commissioner Jenkins?
Second?
Second from Commissioner Frohr. I'll place that motion for vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. Commissioners, thank you, Mr. Horn.
Thank you.
Appreciate your work very much. We'll move into a public hearing, and I'll need a motion to adjourn our public meeting and convene a public hearing.
Mr. Chair, I'd move to adjourn our meeting and convene as a public hearing.
Second?
I have a motion and a second. I'll place that motion for vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you. We're now in a public hearing. Our first presentation today will be by Miss Andy Beatles. It says it's public hearing regarding Weber Housing Authority's 5-year and annual PHA plan. Miss Beatles, come on up. Welcome.
Thank you. Yeah, so our annual plan requires public comment. Typically, we do our public comment period in conjunction with our board meeting. However, as we have a significant amendment to our 5-year and annual plan, we wanted the public to have an opportunity, like at a broader level, to provide input on this. So the Weber Housing Authority this year will be project basing up to 40 of our vouchers. What this means is we have housing choice vouchers that are scattered sites. So the voucher and the assistance, the housing assistance, is attached to the individual, and anywhere they choose to live, we'll subsidize that place. What we're doing is converting those vouchers, just up to 40, to a specific site. As the housing market is tightening and it's getting harder and harder for our low-income residents to find affordable units, we feel like this will be a good move to ensure the affordability and to ensure that we have units that are set aside for, that are affordable and safe and decent. So if there are not any other questions, I'd love to open it up to public comment.
My fellow commissioners, you both have some expertise in this area. This is in your portfolio, Commissioner Frohr, so I'll go to you first.
Thank you. Yeah, I appreciate Andy. Weber Housing Authority does a great job. We know we're in what I would call a housing crisis right now in some cases, especially on the lower side of that equation. And, we struggle in Weber County sometimes with vouchers just because of the size of our program and the income it generates. But this was a good effort by Andy, and I know she's continuing to address critical housing areas, attainable housing, working with both the state and local communities. So I support her actions, and we don't have to actually take any action on this report, but I appreciate her bringing that report to us, fellow commissioners.
Thank you. Commissioner Jenkins, any comments from Ms. Beatles?
Well, nothing specific other than the fact I appreciate her efforts, all that Andy's done here to try to forward the progress for the homeless and those folks that are struggling to get housing, and even keep it. Nowadays, just because you're in housing doesn't mean you'll be able to stay in housing. The bottom prices are rising just like the top prices, and it's tough. Mm-hmm. And so I appreciate your efforts, Andy.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Thank you. For the public, you'll have a chance to comment on this in just a few moments before we'll hear the next two items from Mr. Yavarino. But Andy, before you step down, you do a lot of things, but the one thing that comes through to me is that you genuinely care. And I really appreciate that. It's amazing to me. This is a tough space that you work in, and you do a wonderful job in there. And I really appreciate your efforts. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Beatles. Mr. Yavarino, we'll hear item number 3 now, which is a public hearing for consideration and action on a request to vacate a 2-foot of a 10-foot public utility easement located on the rear lot of 32 of Mountain View Estates, number 5, 2021-8. Go ahead, sir.
Yes, good morning, Commissioners. So this request became necessary due to an encroachment. There was a structure built there, a mistake made. Planning and the owner saw the opportunity to actually reduce the width of this easement. Typically when easements are laid out, they're laid out in 10-foot widths. So that's probably the ideal width. But in this case, because of that encroachment, we didn't want to keep that non-conforming structure when we could easily remedy that situation by going through this easement reduction process through a public hearing. And so Mr. Mortensen is here with us today, the owner of this property. This particular request the county commission would consider this request and approve this request if it meets items A and B. Does good cause exist for the vacation? Is the public interest or any person will be materially injured by this proposed vacation? Staff recommends that the county commission approve this request after staff has followed state ordinances and also county ordinances in the process for this request. And the instrument that will actually execute this vacation is an ordinance, and that's been included as part of this report. And if there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer those.
Very good. Is that ordinance 2021-8, Mr. Brandt?
2021-28.
-28, thank you. Mr. Mortensen, would you like to speak to this item? Yes, sir. Please come forward. Sorry? You want me to come forward? Please.
Thank you for your time today, Commissioners, and to Felix.
This building started construction in October of 2020. I hired a builder to do it. I was part of the layout process, and in that layout process, somehow the physical structure ended up approximately 6 inches, according to a survey, into that 10-foot easement. With the underground footings, it's approximately 18 inches or less into that easement. This is an established neighborhood up in Eden near the junior high school. The only utility service in there is Wolf Creek Irrigation, which I do have a letter in favor, making them aware of it, and we actually exposed the line to it. With the builder during the process, I was not dealing with the inspections. Weber County did point out, hey, we need to make sure the building is, excuse me, the inspector, that the building is at least 10 feet and 10 feet from both sides. I wasn't aware of that on the initial inspections before we actually broke ground. My builder did not share that with me. Subsequently, the superintendent was running the job and ended up being terminated from that company for a myriad of other things. I became aware of this on December 20th, December 23rd of 2020 at the final inspection, that they wanted a survey. That survey in this last year revealed that I had encroached on that easement. And so right now I'm left with a pole barn that's physically above ground 6 inches into that easement and maybe another 12 inches underground. It is a utility easement. Again, Wolf Creek's the only people working in there. All the other utilities in that established neighborhood, the gas, Eden Water, and electric all run in the street off for service. The back property has a 5-foot easement to it. So I'm just asking for some consideration so I can continue to get permits and not have a non-conforming building. At this point, I own all the mistakes, and so I've been working with Felix in planning, and this is the resolution we've came up with. But any questions for me?
Commissioners, any questions for Mr. Mortensen?
Yeah, question if I might,
Please.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir.
So how far into that utility easement are you encroaching with that?
Above ground, the building is 6 inches. With the footing as per the plans, it's 12 inches. So it would be 18 inches into that utility easement, a foot and a half.
You're asking that the whole 10 feet be eliminated?
No. It's a 10-foot easement now. We're asking for a 2-foot reduction,
Okay.
making that easement 8 feet. That would put my building outside of that encroachment.
All right, so it'd be an 8-foot rather than 10-foot?
There would be 8 feet on my side, and the neighbor would have a 5-foot on their side.
I get it.
So,
Okay,
yes, sir.
thanks.
Thank you.
Any questions, Commissioner Jenkins?
For Felix. So did you have engineering look at this?
Yes.
Okay, that's all I wanted to know.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mortensen. Thank you, Mr. Yaverino. Let's proceed to item number 4, which is a public hearing to consider to take action on a request to vacate a 10-foot public utility easement along the north side of Lot 2 of the Lakeview Estates, 1282 North and 7100 East in Eden. Go ahead, sir.
All right. Thank you. Yeah. So this one is became necessary because what they're doing is they're amending a lot line. And by doing that, they're moving the lot line further to the south. And that's all good and fine, but there's still the issue of the public utility easement that remains in that old lot line location. So what we're doing today is we're actually vacating that old location and we're relocating it to that new lot line. That way, the public utility easement that we would redesignate will align with the new property line. Mr. Gerald Allred is the owner, and he's with us as well. And in this particular request, we would look also to make sure that good cause exists for the vacation and that public interest or any person will not be materially injured by the proposed vacation. This particular request is also the instrument to vacate this easement would be the dedication plat. So once we're ready to record, we take this plat through all of the review process, make sure it meets all the county code. We would have the county commission sign that dedication plat and thereby relocating that public utility easement.
Very, very good.
Yes.
Anything else, sir?
That's it.
Mr. Gerald Allred, would you like to comment, sir?
Thank you. I really don't understand the purpose of this utility because there's no utilities anywhere that crosses that property other than my sprinkler line. And I was told that it is a drainage easement. And I don't care where that's at, it's going to cross both property lines. It wanders around that much across my property. But I'm perfectly fine if you want to move it from one to the other or leave it where it's at. But I'd just like it to be where I can record a deed on it and proceed. I've got a buyer for it. Thank you.
Great. Mr. Yavarino, if we were to do this, I know it comes through, would he be able to record that deed and make sure everything's okay so he can accomplish his goals?
Yes.
Very good. Thank you. Commissioners Jenkins, this is kind of in your portfolio. Any questions for Mr. Yavarino or for Mr. Allred?
No, this seems to be pretty straightforward.
Commissioner Frohr?
No, I'm good, thank you.
Hearing none, we'll move on. I have one more question on the aforementioned item number 3, concerning Mr. Mortensen. Do you have a copy of the letter? He states that he has a letter from Wolf Creek Water and Sewer. Do you have a copy of that letter in the file?
Yes.
Okay, so you've been able to verify that what he said is, we trust Mr. Mortensen and verify. That's how we do it.
Yes,
It's
indeed.
important. So that's great. Thank you. Congrats. That's good. Okay, commissioners, with that, we'll turn the time over for a public hearing. Are there any in the public or online that would like to comment regarding the presentation on Weber Housing Authority, on item number 2, the Weber Housing Authority, item 3, the vacation of Lot 32 in Mountain View Estates, or on Lot 2 of Lakeview Estates? We want to be specific, those comments to be specific to one of those 3 items. Anything online? Thank you. Anybody in the public? Seeing none, commissioners, I'd like a motion to adjourn our public hearing and reconvene a public meeting.
So moved?
Second?
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. Thank you. Now we'll move on to item number 7, which is a request, is action on the public hearing. Remember that this is a resolution. We'll have no action on item number 2, on G2. So the next one would be resolution number 2021-28. Is there a motion to on item number 7, G3?
I'd make that motion to approve 2021-28.
Second?
I have just 8 on my, so it is 28?
28.
Okay.
Mr. Brandt, go ahead.
Roll call vote for ordinance 2021-28. Commissioner Frohr,
Aye.
Commissioner Jenkins,
Aye.
Chairman Harvey.
Aye, motion carries. Thank you. Whew. That's a long process. Item number 7, G4. I entertain a motion for this resolution, commissioners.
Mr. Chair, I'd move to approve Resolution 2021-29.
Correct.
Is this? I think this is handled underneath the plat, right, Felix? This is not an ordinance. Okay.
So it's just under just a regular vote, then not a roll call vote? We'll just make
Right,
sure.
it's
we
not a
list those.
resolution.
No, so if you'll just change that.
So
motion.
I would change my motion to take out the resolution, move for the approval of G4 presented this morning to vacate the 10-foot public utility easement located along the north side of lot number 2, Lakeview Estates, Eden, Utah.
I'd second that.
Motion and a second. I'll place that motion for vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. Thank you. Very good. Commissioners, there's not a need to go into closed session. I'll entertain a motion, or I'll ask for comments, item number H. Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion for adjournment.
Move to adjourn.
Motion?
I'll second that.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you.
Okay.